Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast, produced by Terrier TV at Titusville High School. Why do I get mixed up about that today? I have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday. And sometimes it goes that way.
It's always a Wednesday. Well, it's not always a Wednesday.
Sometimes it's a Friday.
In the spring, it's always a Wednesday.
This is true. I can't keep track of it. All right, let me start this over again.
Okay.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast, produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. My name is Frank. That is Bill. That is Jackie. Thank you for being here. How's it going, guys?
There we go. Well, it's going well for me. I don't know about Jackie. How's your day?
Day's been great. A little nervous now, but we'll get there. We're good.
This is Jackie's first attempt at co-hosting the podcast.
Yes.
Cindy had to be away at a event over in Tampa, so we were able to kidnap you for an afternoon.
Yep.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's been happening in the interesting in the world of high school going-ons, guys?
Well, everybody's gotten over Christmas.
So you're both teachers. You would both know.
We're back into the swing.
We're back in it.
Yep.
Countdown to spring break.
Is it true like there's some stomach bug going around like wiping everybody out?
The flu's going around.
Is that what it is?
But it's not.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of a stomach bug.
Oh, okay.
I had a couple of kids out with some nasty
Yeah,
stomach,
I've had some kids out.
and then the flu has been a big thing. But
So-
just,
It's ironic today that we're talking about larger stomach bugs.
Oh,
We'll get to that in a second.
okay.
Oh, no.
Okay. You're worrying me.
Parasites, stomach bugs, they're the same difference
Same
pretty
thing.
much. Yeah,
Okay.
It's all the same. It's all the same thing, right?
Oh,
Sorta?
is that what our guest does?
We're going to let her tell us
See,
about
I
it.
thought she was into snakes. I thought it was a snake thing.
Snakes and parasites go together sometimes.
Do they? Okay. I did
Well,
not know that.
So snakes and parasites and exotics and invasives all go together too, as we've learned in previous episodes.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, this is I think it might have something to do with all that, but we're gonna have to ask
will there
her.
be a test at the end?
I was about to
We'll
say,
have
I might need to start taking some
You
notes.
might.
I'm
might
hoping
take
there's
some-
gonna be a test at the end.
Okay.
I'm quite excited about it actually.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You got to like that.
You guys want to jump into it?
Yeah, let's do
Do
it.
it.
Let's introduce our guest.
So today on the podcast, the name I'm gonna butcher is gonna be. Oh my God! I just started cracking up. Today on the podcast, we are joined by Jenna Palmisano. How's it going?
It's going well, and you did not butcher it. That was
Oh.
perfect.
Aw.
See,
My
there you go.
garage. Okay, there's a first time for everything. Jenna, so my intern Rebecca, met you in Orlando, where you're a student over at UCF, whenever she was getting a grant, I believe, and she was telling me about you and the research you're doing. And she's like, this is a guest you need to have on the podcast. You should chat with her and hear about all the cool things she's doing. So here we go. It worked out, and we're very excited to chat with you.
Yeah, same here. Thanks for having me on.
So I see you're a PhD student over at UCF. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how you ended up over at UCF. Let's start there.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a journey. I grew up in New Hampshire, Salem, New Hampshire specifically. I loved wildlife growing up, but I wouldn't say I was focused on my sciences. I was more so focused on athletics, and I was recruited by the University of Massachusetts to play field hockey. And then I realized that I'd like to spend more time doing science, so I quit pretty promptly right after my first season as a D1 athlete. I was like, I want more time to focus on things that are going to get me to where I want to be. And I was really interested in wildlife biology. And I think a lot of women and a lot of people growing up, you think, I really want to help animals. I really want to work with wildlife. And so the first thought is maybe vet school. And so I had that in the back of my mind that maybe that's something that I would do. But then I transferred schools to Stetson University, where I got my BS. And I fell in love with wildlife and realized that I could make a difference doing research, biology, and conservation and research. And that's kind of where everything started for me. So I started just doing a bunch of free labor, to be honest with you. I think like a lot of undergrads, you see all these internships and your eyes are really wide, like, oh, I can work with raptors. And so I started working with raptors at some bird sanctuaries here in Florida. And then I got really interested in aquatic systems. So then I started working as an aquarist. And that's when I started to get an idea that I was interested in snakes. There was a corn snake at one of the aquariums that I worked at, and I was like, that might be it. And then just by chance, I met Dr. Terrence Farrell at Stetson University, and I started doing research with him. And so he studies pygmy rattlesnakes. Everything we know about dusky pygmy rattlesnakes comes from Central Florida, especially their life history, characteristics. It's all from Terry Farrell, Dr. Peter May, and they were just great people to be around. And Dr. Terry Farrell had other professors come from New Jersey that also worked with pygmy rattlesnakes, and they did a lot of ecophysiological stuff. They were testing like the maternal costs of pregnancy, the cost of disease in terms of metabolic rate and evaporative water loss. So there was just a lot of really cool things happening that I was able to help out with. And I, in the meantime was like, okay, I really want to do research. I think this is my jam. And so I started doing even more. So I worked for Terry as kind of a lab and field tech. And then I worked with the previous aquarium I worked for was hiring to do some horseshoe crab mating behavior research. And it was with a project with FWC. So I got to teach and lead and coordinate volunteers of studying horseshoe crabs. And that was really neat. And it definitely got my feet wet and smelly into the world of field work and just kind of understanding like, okay, yeah, we're gonna, for 3 days, the 3 to 6 days out of the month, we are going to go to Cape Canaveral in the middle of the night. Might be a little scary, and we're just going to walk this smelly beach, look for horseshoe crabs, and it was a really cool experience. And kind of in the mix of all that, I started working at medtoxin venom laboratories in the Reptile Discovery Center that kind of went in the same. And that's when I was able to be introduced to snakes, particularly venomous snakes from all over the world. And that really fostered both my knowledge and interest in the ecology and evolution of venomous snakes specifically. And so I got to work with pygmy rattlesnakes in the field in the lab, and then I got to work with cobras and South American rattlesnakes, North American rattlesnakes, vipers from all over the world in this venom lab. And so I was trained to handle these animals safely in close quarters, to help with venom extractions and such. And it really kind of set me up to be able to do what I do today. And once I graduated in 2020 with my BS from Stetson. So it's kind of that weird flux time of like, okay, what do I do? Because no one's really hiring. But luckily I got a job in Arizona and New Mexico as a wildlife biologist, where I had the opportunity to work with Gila monsters and rattlesnakes out there. So that was a really cool experience.
One of the hot spots.
Yeah, right? The Southeast and the Southwest, best spots to be for rattlesnakes anyways. And so, yeah, then I realized I really wanted to get back to pygmy rattlesnakes. When I was studying them with Terry, we were seeing declines at our local sites, and we were seeing a high prevalence of pathogens that I'm sure we're going to start talking about soon here. And so I really wanted to get back to this system because there were so many unanswered questions, and I was really interested in developing a molecular background and kind of understanding the immunology side of things. And so I was kind of interested in getting into ecoimmunology and looking at, the molecular side of why are certain snakes getting really sick with these pathogens and why are other snakes just dealing with them perfectly fine. So here I am, a third-year PhD student studying pygmy rattlesnakes across the state of Florida. And I am looking at how a few different invasive or emerging infectious diseases are impacting them both on molecular and physiological levels. So I know that was a lot, and I probably skipped some things that have gotten me here, but that's kind of a roundabout answer to how I got to where I am.
What I want to know is how many times have you been bit?
By venomous snakes? I've never been
Or just
bit.
By anything. I mean.
Oh, by anything.
I mean snakes. So venomous, non-venomous.
Yeah, so no hots have bitten me, so no venomous snakes have bitten me.
Okay.
Yes, I would like to owe that to my experiences at the Venom Lab, since we worked with like some of the most toxic snakes, including taipans. It was critical that we were always being as safe as possible to keep myself and the people I'm working with safe. So,
because we talked to one guy one time from St. Cloud, I think.
George Van Horn, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And
George is a good friend and a legend.
And he's allergic to non-venomous snake bites.
Well, he's been doing it also for 60 years.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit different.
It was just wild to me.
Well, so what I've learned from spending a lifetime working with snakes of all kinds too, you can do everything the right way, and if you do something enough times, there's going to be a little bit of risk involved every single time, no matter how many times you do it and how methodical you are about it. There's still a little bit of risk involved. And you got somebody like George has done it for 60 years, hundreds of thousands of times. All it takes is one split second of a lapse or grabbing a diamondback, which people out there in the public should understand. There's no reason to ever put your hand on a venomous snake or any snake really. Us in the professional world have tools and things to use, but things still go wrong. I know George, remember him talking about one time about grabbing a diamondback, an eastern diamondback, to take venom from it, and he just had it just a little bit the wrong way, and it reached a tooth all the way through, all the way past, and got his thumb. It's, with what Jenna's doing, I'm sure she's taken every precaution available, because you make a mistake like that, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's maybe your career.
No, there's definitely a lot on the line, especially as a graduate student. Like, universities are trusting me to have the utmost safety when I'm handling these animals, and so I'm really thankful that I had the opportunity to work with Carl Barden and Imara Barden to really get a grasp of how serious it is to work with venomous species. And being exposed to venom over time, even the kind of molecules that get into the air when you're working in a venom laboratory might make you susceptible to allergies. So there's kind of even more on the line, because, pygmies, they're toxic, but being bit and being allergic is a lot more serious of a situation if anaphylaxis is possible. I like what you said. Like, Carl Barden used to say to us all the time, he was a pilot and he had the 30,000 hour rule, where it was just kind of like a snake can act the same exact way, but that, X number of times that you do it, it's going to do something different. And if you're not prepared or cautious or aware of what's going on, something bad might happen. So,
Yeah, we see that with alligators and crocodiles quite a bit. Snakes are the same way of any other animal. They all have their own little personalities and their own little quirks. And the second you think you have them all locked down, that's whenever one throws you a curveball and you go, well, man, I did not see that coming. But yet, what you're speaking about there too, people don't understand the proteins that are in the snake skins and in the poop you clean up and everything else. If you're spending your life doing that stuff and cleaning up snake skins and cleaning cages, the proteins that are in that stuff are consistently going in your skin. And you're even more hypoallergic to venom if it hits you. It's going to really, really affect you. So it's a very complex thing trying to explain to people, and you're doing it. So more power to you. Now, we've talked to a doc on here before with UF, Dr. Robert Ozaboff.
Oz, he's awesome. Yeah, I work with him a lot.
He's a good dude. He's been on here before and chatted with us, and he's told us a little bit about some of the exotics and some of the things they brought along with them, and I think maybe that deals a little bit with what you're dealing with in your studies. Yeah. So tell us about your studies and what you're looking at.
Yeah, so the three pathogens that I'm kind of focusing on, it's really hard to kind of parse out which pathogens you're going to work on or which parasites you're going to look at in a host, because typically wild animals, especially herpetofauna, are full of parasites. So it's never just one infection most of the time. But the three that I'm focused on are two fungal pathogens, one which is commonly known and is kind of widespread over the eastern United States, Ophidiomyces ophidicula. And then the second fungal pathogen is kind of newer to wild snake populations. There was just a recent publication on it, I think in 2023. And that is A fungus that I have trouble saying, but it's species of Parananthiopsis, which is kind of what I've been going with, and I typically just shorten it to PZ, so I don't have to butcher the name there. And that one it has been found and documented in Central Florida chameleons that are invasive, but it's also been documented in other states, so we don't know exactly where that pathogen has come from, how it's spreading, or how it impacts snakes. But
how do those present?
It's so the fungal pathogens, they are very similar. They're both keratinophilic, so they both like eating the skin of snakes. And so both pathogens have very similar clinical representation on snakes, where it can be as subtle as like a lifted scale, kind of a misplaced scale, maybe just one crusted or raised scale, or kind of be brown and crusty, or it can be as serious as like an open wound, like an ulcer, or where the snake's actually bleeding, or there's serious lesions and crust around the eyes or around the pits of pit vipers that might impact how they're foraging, how they're doing things, stuff like that.
Now, do you see that in every species of snake and reptile, or is that just in certain ones? And have you seen that jump at all from reptiles to anything else?
So most of the time with Ophidiomyces, that's typically going to be on snakes. I don't know off the top of my head of it in other species, but yeah, I think that one is specific to snakes versus the PZ. These are the first documentations in wild snakes. Previously, they were documented in, I think, a captive viper before. And this is just coming off the top of my head, so I'll correct myself here after the episode if I'm wrong. But a lot of it has been in lizards, and so these are like very novel findings of like. These are the first time that we're seeing PZ in wild snakes, and I'm finding it in the pygmy populations here in Florida as well.
Very interesting. Okay, and you were saying you were also looking at a parasite.
Yes, that's the one that I think most people have interest in. So it is an invasive lung parasite. So its name is Raillietiella orientalis, and it is this creepy pentastome parasite. It's a crustacean, so pentastomes are crustacean. They're very diverse. They're all over the world. They don't really cause issues in the hosts that they have history with. But we're seeing that this one, which was spilt over with the Burmese pythons, is causing issues in novel snake species. So kind of the new host is where we're seeing a lot of pathology.
Now, is that jumping into a certain species of snake, or are you seeing that across the board?
Kind of across the board. So 15 species are published right now as hosts, and that's 15 native snake species, and we have 3 more that we are working on publishing now. And it's not just snakes, unfortunately. We have evidence in some in a native lizard, and we also have evidence in a bunch of different invasive lizards and invasive snakes. Unfortunately. And then we've also had some novel findings in some captive specimens too. So as y'all know, like people in South and Central Florida keep animals, reptiles, in outdoor enclosures, and that is a way that they can be exposed to Raillietiella orientalis through its intermediate host that just can kind of move in and out of enclosures really easily, and stuff can munch on them and then get infected, unfortunately.
So now that you're seeing this in 15, 17, 18 different species, what is, if you have let's imagine you have a wand, right? Like a magical wand to fix one of these 3 things or one of these major things that are affecting reptiles. Which one do you approach first, and what do you think the long-term answer is? Is this something these animals end up becoming with an adaptation to, where they can get over it over time, or is this something that's going to be wiping our reptile populations out?
It's really hard to say. So you're kind of asking me, if I had a wand, would I get rid of fungal pathogens, or would I get rid of this lung parasite?
Yeah, if you could fix one of them, which one are you fixing, and why? I guess I'm asking.
I would definitely get rid of the lung parasite. And the reason is because It is this super generalist invader that can infect a broad number of hosts. So its life cycle can be 2 to 3 hosts, where it starts with something like a cockroach that's going to feed on the final host's feces that has eggs in it, ingest that feces with eggs, develop larvae, and then another little host comes along and eats that roach and gets infected. And that can be a small mammal, a small lizard, or a small frog. All of which
wow.
all of which are very abundant, very diverse, everywhere in the southeastern United States, and are readily moved with humans through the horticultural trade, through ports and stuff. Hemidactylus can serve as host for this. So the ease at which this parasite can spread and how much we don't know about its disease and kind of its threat to native snakes, I would definitely wipe out Raillietiella orientalis with my wand, because I just think I mean, these parasites are gnarly. Like I got one, a banded water snake yesterday we cut open, that had died, and it was super skinny, and it had 20 or something of these Raillietiellids in its lung. Oh. And the biggest female was 90 millimeters. That is huge. And some of these snakes are getting up to 107. I've seen 107 in a black racer. And so it's like, okay, well, studying wild animals, we don't know causes of death a lot of the times. It's really hard to mark down because they could have other infections. We don't know if they ate something that was toxic, someone ran them over. But you have to think that is going to impact that animal's physiology if its lung is absolutely packed with.
And you think this came from where?
So it's native to Southeast Asia and Africa, and Dr. Melissa Miller had done some awesome groundbreaking work to kind of get us into this system and have some knowledge. And so she did the first work and the first detection of this parasite in South Florida, and found that likely spilled over with Burmese pythons. But given that it has so many invasive species that it can use as hosts, who knows if it's been introduced multiple times. But yeah, Burmese pythons are kind of our agent of disaster here.
Now, have you noticed any snakes that are actually dealing with it and doing okay with it, or is it just broad spectrum wiping anything out it gets into?
Again, that's kind of, I don't know.
Okay,
I speculate that there's some animals that are able to tolerate higher infection loads, but we just don't know how much it impacts them. Like black racers definitely have the highest intensities that you see. Those are the ones that can get over 100 of the parasites in their lung. And I've seen some black racers that have like 60 to 70 of them in their lung, and they are reproductively active. Like I got a female in my neighborhood that was yolking up follicles. She had fat bodies, and her lung was packed. And it's kind of brings into question of like, are animals foraging behaviors coming into play with this kind of delicate energy balance, and does that make some species more vulnerable to these infections? So racers, for instance, constantly eating, so maybe that allows them energetically to deal with it. And this is all speculative, we just don't know. Versus like a pygmy, who's a sit and wait predator, not really eating that much or that often, maybe has a stricter energy budget and isn't able to deal with this as well.
So what is the end goal of your study, and how can the public help? Is there anything people can do to help?
Yeah, absolutely. So the end goal of my study is to understand the genomic impacts of these pathogens. So I kind of understand both the genomic side of things, and I'm really interested in the MHC alleles, so major histocompatibility complex alleles, which are really highly diverse, but sometimes they can play a big role in pathogen susceptibility. So I want to know if there's kind of a molecular underpinning behind tolerance and resistance to these pathogens. And then I also will be assessing survival and growth rate at 3 sites that I go to once a month. And I've been doing it for 2 years, and I'll be doing it for 3 more. So we'll have a really robust data set of disease progression, both with single infection and co-infection. And what the public can do is just keep their eye out. A lot of times these pentastomes will move out of the snake's mouth once they're dead. And we're about to come out with a new publication. I just got the proofs today, and it's talking about 14 new counties that we found it in, including Okaloosa, which borders Alabama. So that's very scary. It's all the way in the northwest, so in the panhandle of Florida. And we've been able to find a lot of the geographic range expansion and new host expansion data through a monitoring network that myself and Dr. Farrell created a couple years ago. It's called SLAM, Snake Lungworm Alliance and Monitoring. And we have a website and stuff and ways that you can report infections. If you see a snake in your backyard that dies and you see weird things coming out of its mouth, you can send a picture and we'll kind of assess what we think it is. And so just keeping an eye out for snakes in your neighborhoods and seeing if roadkill, don't get too close if it's venomous, don't pick it up if it's venomous, of course, but just keeping your eye out to see if you see weird things crawling out of snake's mouth that happen to be dead and you come across. And for the people that are more of herpers and go out to see snakes and stuff, and do road cruising, if you find dead snakes and you freeze them, then our network will get them from you, dissect them, and see what kind of parasites they have. And one of the really cool things about this network too is we look for parasites, but we also prep these animals for museum specimens as well. So we're saving DNA samples from these snakes just to have, important backlogs of molecular data and morphological data for these species. So get in contact with us and just keep your eye out for weird things coming out of snakes' mouths, I guess.
So we're over here on the Space Coast. Have you guys seen any of this stuff in Brevard?
Yes, unfortunately.
Interesting. Wow, this is pretty cool stuff. Now I'm looking up at your graphic, and we have the headshot of you with a pygmy with his looks like he's in a clear plastic tube, and the other side of it
is in a tube.
The other side of it's the Savage Lab. So tell us what the Savage Lab is. Is that the lab you work out of?
Yes. So my advisor is Dr. Anna Savage, and my lab mate, who's amazing and an incredible artist, made that graphic. Her name is Erin Brosnan. But yeah, Savage Lab, we kind of focus on immunogenetic stuff, and we study sea turtles, snakes, frogs. Yeah, we're definitely a cool group, and we do a lot of pathogen work and a lot of immunogenetic stuff.
Wow, that's you have a pretty awesome journey ahead of you that you've already been on too. So this is really, really special. I really appreciate you sharing this all with us.
So you said you got 3 more years to go on this?
Yeah, 3 more years, just based on the data that I want to collect in the sample size.
So now at what point do you get your PhD? You don't have to wait 3 years for that, do you?
I do, yeah. That's just kind of how I chose it. Some people can graduate within 5 years, but because I'm studying survival and the progression of disease, and I want to have a sample size of over 1,000 just to really be able to answer the questions I have. Wow. I'm kind of here for the long run. It's more about the project for me than it is the time, and thankfully, my advisor fully supports that.
So how are you making money?
Oh, they pay me to teach. They pay me to teach.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh,
That's
good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. So what classes do you teach?
I teach, so my first couple of semesters I taught biology 2, and then I taught ecology, and I teach herpetology right now. And I just teach the labs and stuff. So I really like ecology and herpetology because it's a lot of going outside and teaching students about ecology and ecological methods to study wildlife. So, yep.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome. I am going to chime in and have one question because I'm listening to all of this and I can think, like, what is Thanksgiving dinner like at the family conversation with what you do? I mean, how's your family with all of this?
Honestly, I mean, obviously, I wish that they asked more questions. I don't really talk a lot about my research because I don't know. I figure they might not really want to know much about it. And they got excited when they saw me in a short article by National Geographic, and then I got some questions, but. Yeah, I try to bite my tongue most of the time at the dinner table because parasites aren't really.
That's where I'm like, I don't know how you talk about
this. A good
this.
topic. Yeah. No, luckily, my husband's also a researcher, so we chat quite a bit about our studies, and we're both just really interested in research, and that's what our life revolves around. So I do have someone to yap with.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
So I got one other question too. Mm-hmm. Division I athlete, right? You got into school as a Division I athlete. You were there. You did it for a year. There's got to be something from that really career you had playing field hockey that you have now taken over to your research and what you do every day. Can you think of something that you've taken from that and brought into what your everyday work now with your research?
Yeah, it would definitely be determination and drive, and kind of a self-motivation, and also resilience. A lot of resilience. You know, you apply to a lot of grants as a grad student, you get denied quite often, but you also get accepted. So I would say resilience and drive are definitely two of the major things, and also just having a collaborative and team-like mindset of, you know, when you're researching a major conservation problem, you can't handle this all by yourself. Don't try to be greedy and do that. Involve other people, ask questions, make task teams that allow people to share resources and stuff. So I definitely say, yeah, those are the three things. I know you asked for one, but I'm gonna say three: resilience, drive, and teamwork. Yeah.
No, it's something to be commended for. You hear a lot of younger folks whenever they're first in the high school world and they're wanting to go to college. They're dreaming to be that athlete the next level, to be a Division I athlete. You got there and you did it, and you realized you had a different passion and you went a different direction. That's I understand that's part of college, is kind of changing your path. But most people, when they get on that Division I athlete level, they go ahead and stay it through. And you actually saw that wasn't your jam. And your words exactly. I use the same verbiage. Yes. I use the same verbiage all the time. And you went a different direction with it. I think that's to be commended. That's pretty awesome.
It's funny. My husband did the same thing. He played Division I soccer and then quit and started doing research on snakes.
Oh wow!
Wow. Okay. What kind of research is he doing?
So he does a lot of behavior work. So he studies Massasaugas in the wild, as well as in captivity, and then he studies pygmy rattlesnakes as well.
Massasaugas, that's up there in the Midwest, right? Ohio, areas like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, the cousin of the pygmy. Yes, the other little rattlesnake.
Yes. They're much fatter than pygmies, though. I will say that.
That's pretty neat. Thank you so much for being on here and chatting with us. This has been a great conversation. We'd love to have you back on again sometime to chat about this as you get further along in your research. If people want to reach out to you about your research, or to give you your lab or you information about maybe something they came across, where can they go to do that?
So I have a website that I can send you a link to, and then also I have Instagram as well that people often use to reach out to me. But yeah, my website has my Instagram and my email on it, so that might be the best link to share.
Okay, you want to tell us what that is real quick too, and just in case somebody's listening and can't look at the link real quick?
Yeah, I just actually made it. So it's just my name, Jenna Palmisano, JennaPalmisano.weebly, which is just a common free site people use to make websites, and then .com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on here and chatting with us. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to chatting with you again sometime.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good way to bring in the Year of the Snake for sure.
That is true. It is the Year of the Snake. I just thought
about
that. Yeah.
Okay, I had no idea.
It is. I heard that the other day. I didn't realize it. Yeah, that's the jam. Thank you, Jenna. We really appreciate you, and we'll chat with you again soon. Thank you very much.
Sounds great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll see you. Bye. That was awesome. Yeah, I remember some of that. Dr. Ozaboff talking about a little bit of that, but it's cool to hear about somebody local that's that's digging into it. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And so
it's a little scary though.
My mind is like poof right now with all of it.
When we had talked to Dr. Oz about it, I don't think it had shown up on the Space Coast yet. So now it's here.
Okay.
I always thought that that barrier there, the St. John's, is going to hold it back for a little bit, but apparently somebody probably took something and dropped it off, or brought their own snake in that probably already had it, or who knows. But there's that's the real danger. The whole idea behind exotics and invasives. We've talked about this before. There's some point with all these things, they're no longer exotics or invasives. Once they're introduced,
once they're established.
Yeah, once they're introduced and established, that has to go out the window at some point. You got to get over it. It's like people with Cuban tree frogs. Get over it at some point. Yeah. They're not going anywhere.
Right. You're not getting rid of them.
Yeah, sticking them in your freezer isn't solving anything. That's just kind of being a jerk.
I didn't know that was a thing. People keep them?
No, people stick them in their freezers and do all kinds of silly stuff. You got some people that'll smash them every time I see one. Like, you're not solving anything. You're solving one problem in the 100 million that are in your backyard. You know what I mean? Come on now.
Right.
You got to move on from it at some point. Nature always finds a way to balance itself back out. It does. And with this, snakes are going to have to come up with, adapt to it and come up with some way to battle it, or we're not going to have any snakes left. Yeah. That's some spooky stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But you said you could see it coming out of the mouth.
I saw the look on your face.
Like, oh,
I couldn't stop laughing over here. I was cracking up. Yeah, that's a lot. But that's the real danger with, as Dr. Oz was telling us, that's the real danger with exotic animals, is the things they bring along with them that you can't see.
Right. Yeah, you never know what they have.
Crazy stuff, man. Yeah, that's wow. Well, that was a fun conversation.
Yes, it was. It was very educational.
It was. Anything exciting going on with you all the rest of the week?
Oof. Oh, now we're really on the spot. Exciting.
Exciting.
Do we dare say Friday at 2:15?
Yes, very, very exciting.
I had my first meeting for flag football. I'm going to coach flag football. When I'm going to find the time to do this, I have no idea, but I'm going to. Yeah, so
flag football for where?
Maryland Christian.
Maryland Christian. Okay.
Yeah, so as long as I can only coach 2 days a week, I'll probably make it work. So
they're actually doing it in the elementary schools now.
They are. Yeah. I got a buddy of mine it's coaching it at Challenger 7. He was telling me about it. So,
okay.
Yep, more power to him.
Yeah, they put out an email through here that Coquina was looking for somebody.
Yeah. Shout out to Brent.
I did look at it. I was like, what exactly are they asking for? Because I was curious. I'm like, what is the, how many days a week, how often, and, a 5 or 6 week program. But I'm like, what a cool thing for the kids to do.
Oh, yeah.
That age group's pretty awesome, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good sport age group. What a lot of parents don't realize is the truth of flag football being more dangerous than tackle football. It truly is, because you got people running at each other at full speed with no helmet and no pads on.
Right.
And collisions happen, and then it's a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
Does somebody get hurt every now and then playing tackle? Sure, but people get hurt all the time playing flag. Just the truth of it.
Yeah.
Broken noses, broken, you name
stuff.
it. Yeah, all kinds of head injury, a lot more head injuries, honestly, because they're not wearing any protection.
Well, the whole problem with the leading with your helmet and all that stuff, and Joe Paterno once said, if you want to get rid of that problem, take away the face mask. No, take the face mask away.
Okay.
Take the face mask away, and they'll stop doing that.
That's true.
Yep.
I bet it would.
Oh, yeah. Still protect their head, but your nose is going to get...
Yeah, your nose is going to be flat to your face pretty quick.
Yeah, you're going to look like, the old football players from way back. Yep.
No joke. Thank you for being on here with us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you hanging out with us. All right, I'm going to end this joker. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning into the EEARSS podcast, produced here at Terrier TV, and hanging out with us and listening about all kinds of cool things, hearing people's journeys, what things they're working on, things they're doing, businesses they're running, all the things. We talk about all of it. You can find us on all platforms by searching EEARSS, or EEARSS, going over to ears.org, ears.com, alligatorrobb.com. There's 2 B's in Rob. It's more confusing than ears sometimes, but it's all there in the same place. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week. Bye-bye.